Lately, everyone in the AI community has been talking about agents and reasoning, as they seem to be the way forward towards AGI, now that just pre-training larger models for longer seems to be hitting its limits. But as it's easy to overfit on theoretical benchmarks and agents require incorporating multiple information sources, reasoning about them and then calling some tools, there currently aren't any really good benchmarks to get some more information into the state of how good these agents actually are. But recently an interesting new benchmark has popped up, as David Hirschley, an employee of Anthropic, has created an agent which is capable of playing Pokémon Red and is live streaming the results on Twitch. And as Pokémon Red requires both spatial reasoning, planning, computer vision, strategic thinking, as well as tool usage to both control the emulator and know when to store things in your database, it's a very good benchmark. And Pokémon was also my favorite game growing up, and as someone born in Belgium who of course couldn't understand English at the age of 6, even I managed to beat Pokémon Leaf Green. So if the reasoning process of these models is as good as they claim that it is, beating a Pokémon game should be no issue. Claude started playing Pokémon Red on February 25th, and last week I created a video about this, documenting how the agent was made and also creating a video about all the highlights that occurred in the last 2 weeks. If you didn't already watch this video, I would recommend watching that video first so you have a better understanding of what's happening now, but I will do a quick recap about what happens. A first version of Claude first chose Squirtle as a starter and was capable of navigating all the way to Mount Moon. After spending then more than 70 hours in Mount Moon, he was finally able to escape and made his way to Cerulean City. After defeating Misty, however, Claude was getting stuck and he didn't manage to find his way to Bill, which is required to progress, as you need the SSN ticket in order to get the HM cut, which is necessary to get to the Vermilion City gym. So Claude 1 was eventually killed by its creator, and immediately a new run would start with an improved Claude, which basically had an improved memory system so he could write to individual files. This Claude instead chose Bulbasaur as his starter Pokémon and additionally quickly caught a Pidgey and a Jigglypuff. Mount Moon was once again a struggle thanks to the famous blackout strategy. If you don't know what that is, just look at the previous video, and found his way to Cerulean City eventually. Misty was once again easily beaten, and this time however Claude did manage to find his way to Bill, so he obtained the SSN ticket, and now with this ticket he should just go to Vermilion City and hopefully not once again get stuck in Cerulean. Now that Claude had obtained the SSN ticket, there isn't anything left to do for him in Cerulean, and Claude has to simply find the house that was vandalized by Team Rocket, which Claude refers to as the trashed house. However, he once again found himself stuck in the backyard of the Badge House. Even Claude seemed to get a bit frustrated as he tried to do all kinds of movement combos, for which he even received a warning from the emulator. After once again asking the bald man to explain everything about each badge, which he already did 100 times before, Claude finally decided to leave the Badge House. However, surprisingly, when leaving the house this time, he went to the east instead of going to the south like usual. This was exciting progression, as the trashed house, which serves as the exit from Cerulean City, was also in that direction. The chat was full of excitement when Claude even noticed the guard in front of the trashed house, and Claude decided to check it out. Would, after more than 40 hours in Cerulean City, Claude finally make his way to Vermilion? After talking to the guard outside, Claude even decided to go inside the trashed house. We were so close now, as Claude just had to find the other door towards the north to finally leave Cerulean behind. However, after cornering the NPC with the green hair and talking to her, Claude decided to not explore the trashed house any further. These moments are very frustrating because for some reason Claude on one hand doesn't have any issue talking to the same NPC 200 times to see if they have something else to say, but on the other hand doesn't even consider exploring a new area fully. After a few more hours, Claude finally made its way back to the trashed house. The chat was once again getting hyped. Surely this was it and Claude would finally exit Cerulean City. However, this time Claude didn't even want to enter the trashed house. Another hour went by and Claude once again found himself stuck in the badge house. After leaving, he once again went to the east and the chat was once again getting excited. He arrived at the trashed house for the third time and this time he once again decided to enter it. Everything was looking good so far. After editing a lot of information in its knowledge base, Claude for some reason though decided he had enough and wanted to leave the trashed house, which he thought he could do by simply pressing the B button. Claude even hallucinated that he actually left the trashed house, but he was just standing in the same spot as before. However, all his hallucination had an upside, as he for the first time noticed that there was an exit at the other end of the building and went through it. A significant discovery. After briefly going back into the trashed house, he finally realized that this was indeed the exit he had been searching for and quickly left again. The rocket grunt waiting outside proved to be no problem for Claude, as after switching out Puff for Spro, so Puff could still get some XP, Spro managed to beat the Machop as well as the Drowsy by just spamming Razor Leaf. Another easy victory for Claude. A much bigger challenge was actually when he was approaching the edge by which he could jump back to Cerulean City. As we had just spent more than 40 hours in Cerulean already, everyone in the chat was holding their breath as no one wanted to go through all of that again. However, AGI had clearly been reached as Claude correctly decided to navigate around the edge. It seemed that we were finally making our way to Vermilion City. Claude kept navigating in the right direction, passing by beautiful landscapes. Like someone in the chat correctly noticed, this felt more like Victory Road than just the way to the next gym. After so much time waiting, Claude was finally progressing in the game. However, Claude walked past the entry to the underground tunnel he had been searching for all this time and instead walked up to the passage which was the entry to Saffron City. It's impossible to go to Saffron City at this point in the game, as you first need to buy the guard a drink from the department store in Celadon City. This was something I also struggled with myself when I was a kid, and I remembered I did a couple of months over finally gaining access to Saffron City. However, unlike me back then, Claude can actually read English and still tried to pass the guard 5 times before realizing he needed to get a drink before he could proceed this way. Claude quickly left the building and, unlike almost every child who would start exploring the entry of the underground passage, Claude instead started moving back to Cerulean City. He might have thought that he needed to buy the guard a drink somewhere and the drink could be found in Cerulean. We quickly started to realize that Claude might not reach Vermilion in the next 10 hours. The chat was also in total disbelief when Claude once again found himself in front of the edge through which Cerulean could be reached. All the exploration seemed for nothing, as this time Claude instead jumped down. Claude seemed to truly want to belong in Cerulean and didn't seem to intend to leave anytime soon. Instead, he once again started chilling in the backyard of the badge house. If you could smoke cigarettes in Pokémon Red, he would probably start doing it. But after a while, Claude had enough and decided to grind some XP. After defeating a Sparrow, Sand even evolved into a Pidgeotto. Perfect, exactly what Claude had intended. Now that Claude's goal was reached, he could return to his favorite spot, the backyard of the badge house. A bit later, something remarkable happened and Claude had once again navigated through the trashed house. Claude seemed to want to troll the chat a bit, as for a while he would repeatedly enter and exit the trashed house. However, after a while he realized that there might be a hidden path in the house and navigated correctly towards the exit. Once again, we seem to be on our way to Vermilion City. As Claude, probably from its pre-training, knew that Vermilion was an electric type gym, he even tried to teach the ground type move Dig to one of his Pokémon. Unfortunately, none of his Pokémon were capable of learning it. Claude came closer to the edge, leading back to Cerulean. Everyone on the chat was saying, "Claude, please don't do it." However, he didn't seem to care and decided maybe visiting the Badge House was more interesting than going to Vermilion. Luckily, not much later, Claude had navigated back again through the trashed house, and this time he was taking the correct route to Vermilion City. Claude arrived at the entrance of the underground tunnel. This time he noticed that the building had an entry and went inside. He proceeded to go down the stairs and arrived at the long-awaited underground tunnel. Claude correctly noticed that this was a major breakthrough in his progress through the game. He had finally reached the tunnel for which the first version of Claude was looking all the time and was even resetted as he kept looking for it instead of going to Bill. The music playing throughout the tunnel sounded like we had ascended to heaven and Vermilion City was within reach. Claude quickly progressed through the tunnel and found the exit. Now he only had to navigate to the north to visit Vermilion. While exploring, a bug catcher challenged Claude to a battle. At first the battle seemed like it was going to be relatively easy. However, as both me and Claude realized that Gust is a normal type move in Generation 1 and thus wasn't super effective on bug types. Additionally, the Butterfree also put Sand to sleep. It was finally starting to get a bit more interesting and Claude also switched to its strongest Pokemon's Pro. The Butterfree, however, had no chill and hit another sleeping powder. Because the confusion attacks of the Butterfree were additionally super effective against grass types, Claude decided to switch to Puff, his only Pokémon that wasn't already asleep. But the Butterfree had no intent on giving up, as he also paralyzed Puff, and as Puff only had Pound as an attacking move, he was quickly brought to low HP and eventually fainted. Luckily, Sprout woke up in time and defeated the Butterfree. However, the damage had been done and the party was on low HP, and returning to Cerulean City after being defeated was getting scarily close. It even became worse, as two trainers were blocking the entrance to Vermilion City. The first trainer had a couple of Pidgeys. Instead of waiting for Claude's Pidgeotto to wake up, he decided to switch to Sprout. Luckily, even though Razor Leaf is ineffective against wind types, in Gen 1 Razor Leaf almost always crits, so by just spamming it, Claude managed to beat the first trainer. Claude seemed to notice he was low on HP, and instead of talking to the next NPC like he normally would, he wanted to navigate around it, but it didn't work and he was caught. This was the last trainer he had to beat before arriving at Vermilion City, and with a party low on HP, things started to get tense. Once again, he swapped out his Pidgeotto for Sprout, who had to tank some more attacks. A critical Razor Leaf managed to luckily dispose of the Sparrow. The next Pokemon was Eradicate, which with a single quick attack managed to bring Sprout's HP bar into the red. Luckily, the Razor Leaf once again critted and the chat was getting excited as Claude had finally defeated the trainer. And with that out of the way, Claude had arrived at Vermilion City. However, as our Pokémons were low on HP, Claude correctly reasoned that we first had to go to the Poké Center, which proved to be more difficult than expected, as all the roofs of the houses in Vermilion City were red, and Claude seemed to confuse this with the Pokémon Center. He even started backtracking, which could be dangerous as our party was low on HP. After wandering around, Claude finally luckily found the Poké Center. The hallucinations of Claude once again started to get apparent, as instead of talking to the nurse, he first talked to an NPC sitting in a couch, which he incorrectly identified as the nurse. He then went up to the nurse but faced the wrong direction, seemingly trolling the chat before finally healing his Pokémon. While trying to make his way towards the SSN, Claude found his way to the Pokémon fan club. And after listening to the chairman talk about how much he loves his Rapidash, which honestly is a bit of a weird story that this man is telling, Claude finally obtains a bike voucher, which he is able to redeem in Cerulean City should we ever navigate back to it. After that, Claude finds his way to the SSN, and after talking to the NPC at the entry, he gets a bit confused on how he should enter it and thinks that he has to use the SSN ticket, which is cute, but it doesn't work like that. However, he realizes he should just move past the guard and is finally allowed on the SSN, a significant milestone. In Pokémon Red you get access to the HM cut after clearing the SSN, which is required for reaching the Vermilion City gym, so in order to progress, Claude really has to beat every trainer on this ship. The first gentleman trainer on the ship was no issue for Claude, as his Pidgeotto takes care of the 2 Nidoran by spamming Gust. However, the second trainer he faces has a Growlithe, which manages to burn the Pidgeotto and eventually finish it off. Luckily, Sand managed to bring the Growlithe to low HP, so that Spro could eventually finish it by using Razor Leaf. Because the party is low on HP, Claude decides to go back to the Poké Center to heal, and afterwards surprisingly is able to return to the SSN relatively quickly. This is actually the first time I've seen Claude navigate so well between different locations. Back on the SSN, Claude gets challenged by a sailor, however, as a Razor Leaf is super effective against a Shelter, the battle is easily won by Claude. And at the end of the battle, the trainer says something about a fishing guru in Vermilion City, and Claude, without hesitation, thinks that to progress the story he needs to find this fishing guru, and once again leaves the SSN. While searching for the fishing guru, Claude starts backtracking to Cerulean City. Not again. Claude navigates the entire underground passage, but luckily at the end of it, it seems Critique Claude seems to have realized that what Claude was doing was wrong and warns him, which leads Claude to travel back to Vermilion. A disaster avoided, as no one wanted Claude to go back to Cerulean City. Back in Vermilion, Claude decides that it's time to get back to the SSN, and while updating his knowledge base, we can see that Claude actually decided to draw an ASCII map of Vermilion City, which is very cool and hopefully helps him with navigating. After a few hours of wandering around, Claude once again finds the entrance to the SSN. This time, however, he gets very confused and doesn't realize he has to navigate past the guard to go to the ship. Even though he did it 2 times before, he now seems stuck, and each time after talking to the guard, he takes a step back and thinks that the SSN will just appear on the dock. After a while, Claude just decides to leave. Although he doesn't manage to get back to the SSN, he does find the fishing guru, which caused him to leave the SSN in the first place, and after talking to the fishing guru, he obtains the old rod. A couple of hours go by and Claude gets back to the front of the SSN. However, he once again doesn't realize he has to step to the front to enter it. I just don't understand how it's possible that Claude doesn't understand this, as it's so obvious and he has already done it before. To make matters worse, instead of trying to find the entry, he travels back all the way to Cerulean City and once again jumps down the edge. Claude seemed to want to frustrate the chat as much as possible. A positive thing though is that Claude had now obtained the bike voucher from talking to the Pokémon fan club in Cerulean City, and is now able to navigate to the bike store. And after talking to the shop owner who noticed the voucher, Claude redeems it and obtains a bicycle. He also decides to try it out, which is more funny than I thought it would be, just seeing Claude ride around on a bicycle. As a bike moves you 2 spaces instead of 1 per button press, it also breaks the navigation a bit, and Claude doesn't seem to be able to get to the space he intends to go to anymore. A while later, after riding around a bit more, Claude seems to have forgotten that he's actually on a bike. As he wants to move faster, he decides to get on the bike. However, because he's already on it, he gets off the bike instead, to his surprise. But Claude really wants to get on the bicycle, so he once again opens the menu to get back on it. If I had to describe Claude Plays Pokemon in one clip, this would be it. However, like I said, navigation gets more difficult, and as Claude wants to visit his favorite place, the Badge House, he struggles to get in. But Claude is determined, and eventually he finds himself in his favorite backyard, equips his bicycle and starts riding around. Is this the endgame for Claude? Has he completely given up on the SSN and decided that there is more to life than just meaningless gym badges? Maybe the AI is trying to teach us something. After some time, Claude decides to once again cross the Nugget Bridge, and probably because of some mistake in navigation, he presses the A button next to the NPC and finds an ether that has been hidden. After that, he bikes around some more and finds a trainer that he hasn't defeated yet. Sand had grown pretty strong and takes care of both the Rattata and the Ekans without any issues. Although all hope seemed lost and Claude seemed to have no intention of returning to the SSN, a miracle happened and Claude once again found his way to the Trash House, and even recorded in his knowledge base that the Trash House has a secret exit. Claude was very determined, and thus doing this easily navigated both through the Trash House as well as that he didn't jump down over the edge to get back to Cerulean. It seems, although the progress of Claude was slow after a while, it did seem to record useful information in its knowledge base. The way to Vermilion was also much faster this time, and in what seemed like a few minutes, Claude had once again arrived at Vermilion City and made its way to the SSN. This time, it made the correct choice of navigating past the guard. AGI confirmed. On the SSN, Claude explored some new areas, and his first battle was against a trainer who likes feisty kids. Hold up, what's he saying? Maybe these sailors are indeed a bit scary in Gen 1. The sailor only has some horses, which proved to be no issue for Sand. Once again, Gust came to the rescue, which managed to easily defeat all the horses without having Sand take too much damage. Claude was very determined, and he easily found the next sailor who challenged him to a battle. This time the trainer had some less repetitive Pokémon, such as a Tentacool. However, Sand had grown pretty strong, and although the Tentacool hit an acid attack, a Gust quickly disposed of the Tentacool. As Sand only had half of his HP left, Claude finally decided to switch to Spro, which was exciting as an Ivysaur will evolve into a Venusaur at level 32. A single Razor Leaf, which once again critted, was sufficient to beat the Sailor. However, the experience gained was not enough for a Spro to reach level 32. Up to the next cabin, where Claude met a Fisherman. The first Pokémon the Fisherman sent out was a Tentacool, which was once again taken care of by a critical hit by Gust. The second Pokémon was a Staryu, for which Claude decided to switch to Spro. Was this the time that Spro was finally going to evolve? After quickly defeating the Staryu, the final Pokémon sent out was a Shelder. Another water Pokémon, so it was no issue for Spro, who had grown so strong that this Razor Leaf was basically one-shotting everyone. However, this time something exciting happened as Spro finally gained enough XP to level up. It was finally the time. After more than 150 hours of gameplay, Spro had gained enough experience to finally evolve into a Venusaur, a significant milestone. The last trainer in the same cabin had a Machop, but Claude didn't decide to show us his new Venusaur and instead used sand to take care of it. Every child would continue exploring, but as his sand had reached half HP, Claude instead decided it was time to leave the SSN and navigate back to the Poké Center to heal his Pokémon. Claude even decided to get on his bike so he could travel even faster. The bike once again though broke his navigation, as for half an hour he struggled to get actually in the Poké Center. Eventually he got off his bike, got into Poké Center and healed his Pokémon. Back in the SSN. This time Claude was struggling with exploration, and he even convinced himself that one of the trainers in the cabin was actually the seasick captain who should give him the HM cut. Claude even created a separate knowledge base file called Captain Interaction Matrix, in which he kept track of all the different methods he had tried to use to trigger the captain to give him cut. However, after a while he received a warning, possibly from Critique Claude, that he was in a loop and that he should not return to this NPC until he found some new information. Upon recording this in his knowledge base, Claude just left the SSN, and at this moment of recording is just walking around in Vermilion City. Although it's been interesting to follow Claude's journey so far, it has become pretty clear that to actually finish Pokémon Red, it will be a much bigger challenge than I initially thought. Claude has severe memory and vision issues. He also struggles switching between multiple goals and is very easily distracted, which causes him to backtrack often much further than is necessary. As he progresses further and further into the game, more of the game also opens up, which will probably make it even more difficult for Claude. So I don't even know if it's possible for him to finish Pokémon Red within the next 6 months. I'm also a bit afraid that Anthropic might shut down the stream if not enough progression happens, as keeping some H100 running to just make Claude wander around in Cerulean City might not be worth it. However, I will keep watching the stream, and if some new things happen, I will create a video about that. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you enjoy AI related content or want to know more about the technicals behind LLMs and things like that, consider subscribing, and I hope I see you in the next video.